Welcome to Dosed, and if this is your first time tuning into Dosed, thanks for being here. I do want to highlight, not all of these episodes, probably not many, will be PG, and the areas and stories we cover span across science, spirituality, the mind, the body, alternative lifestyle and healing. And you may find some of these views or stories conflicting with your own personal beliefs, and if you are upset by them, or ultimately don't like thinking for yourself, the good news is Love Island is coming back on the TV, so you can go and tune into that. Otherwise, thanks and enjoy this next episode. This episode of Dosed is brought to you by O Black Caps. So O Black Caps, they provided refuge for me when I was stuck in the classic scroll hole on Instagram. And yellow being my favourite colour, their latest cap, which I'm wearing today, Phosphate, totally jumped out at me. So I ended up ordering it from Instagram or Amazon, I think it was at that point, with if I'm honest, no expectations. When it arrived though, bam, oh my God, like the quality, the style, the colours, like really pop. And for me, comparing this to other caps that I've recently purchased, these are, if not the best, one of the best on the market at the moment. But if I'm honest, that's not, the style and everything is not really what captured me. It's when I read their mission, which I'm going to read out to you guys. That was really, it just grabbed me by the nuts. And their mission statement is, our goal is to change the concept that people have of being a black sheep. Many look at these people as displaced, misfits, or those who do not fit into the current mold set. But we see them as real people, without fear of what people say, people who are true to their values and don't conform to the status quo. Harnessing this power as their innate gift, dedicating it to what they love, creating their own path for their life. What a fucking statement. For me, that was like, wow, this is incredible. And I think if you are feeling that and you want to embrace your inner black sheep, go and buy an O Black cap. We also have a discount code because they are proud. We're proud to be to having them as our sponsors. So if you keep listening through the show, I will drop the discount code so you get money off these awesome caps. Kristin Gillespie. Hello, my lovely friend. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
I know. I'm happy that you're almost here. I mean, your presence is with me at least. I can feel your energy.
I am. I'm right here above you like a guardian angel.
No, how it should be. I'm always getting in trouble, so I'm glad someone is.
Aww.
But it's been, I can't even remember the last time I saw you, actually. Over a year, maybe?
Probably. Yeah. We've been in Malta, but we missed you and lockdown happened, so it's been a bit, yeah.
Wow. And how are you coping at the moment over in the UK? It's a bit more full on over there than Malta.
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know how to compare it, to be exact. I think it's really individual. It's different for everybody. So for me, my reality is reflecting really positively from all of this, based on what I know and how I channel my consciousness. And I guess that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you about today is how to do that. And so I've turned this situation, which could have been a crisis, into an opportunity. One, to finish the documentary I'm working on, Deconstructing Sentience, but also just in engaging more with the kids and enjoying walks in nature and stuff like that. And instead of, getting in the fear, just replacing it with love. I think that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. There's something I actually picked up on as well, is that it was, and I was trying to get people, especially my family, to unplug from the noise, just of the, obviously the media, you could say, are obviously trying to keep everyone informed, or were trying to keep everyone informed, but I think it's just the constant negative feedback you're getting from the news is always going to have, I would imagine is always going to have a negative, it's going to stick to you. So then you're always going to be kind of looking at the numbers, you're going to be thinking, okay, what if I open my door and my neighbour's got it? Or what if? And it was kind of, it didn't feel good initially, but I don't, again, I'm only judging from Malta, I'm not in the UK at the moment. But it feels like that shifted. Now people have realized actually it's okay. We can use this time to kind of look internally. Once they've got over the Netflix, I've gone through everything on Netflix phase. And I think that now you can see people are being a lot more creative, maybe taking more time to spend with family, or just to even then start looking at themselves and working out their own priorities really. So it's been an interesting, how long? 3 months? 3 months nearly. So it's been an interesting period, I'd say. But obviously you're here today because you have an incredible, is it a movie or a 2-part documentary?
It's a 2-part documentary. It's 2 different documentaries, actually.
Oh, really?
So the first
Okay.
one's called Deconstructing Sentience, From Chaos to Coherence.
Okay.
And the second one will be Deconstructing Sentience, Simplifying Ascension. So we take some more advanced material and sort of break it down, because what I'm really trying to do here is bring the sky to the street. You just hit on so many topics that I wanted to address, really. The fact that we all, binge on Netflix and drink a lot and, work or even work out to the extreme. So I'm sort of making the claim, really, that we're all walking around with all of these addictions.
Yeah.
And I know addiction might be a strong word to some people, but I really see it. We live in an addicted society, and it keeps us away from the very thing that we're seeking. And that's the irony of it. So I'm here to kind of name it, because I believe that there's so much potential in each and every one of us. And we can get there if we actually stop the escapism and start learning how to go within, as you said, and really be with our emotional body. And that's kind of why I fell in love with this word called sentience.
Yeah, and sentience, I mean, it's funny enough, I've mentioned, obviously I've been really excited about you coming on the show, even from the last season. And I've mentioned it to more than a few people, just saying, okay, there's going to, sentience, trying to get this word out there. I have a limited understanding and what I think it may be, but it would be good to kind of talk around what sentience is, or what it could be, and what it isn't, I guess, maybe just to allow people to kind of work it out themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Everyone said to me along the way, you might want to change the title because no one knows what sentience is. And I was like, you've proven my point. That's the point. No one knows exactly what it means, and yet it describes the human condition better than any other word, And for me, there's so much in it, so much more than we give it credit for. So, of course, being sentient, you think of maybe a sentient being, right? An animal, maybe the ability to be aware, maybe the ability to feel. That's kind of the dictionary definition. But for me, it's like where these 3 worlds of new science and spirituality and intuition collide. And it makes this like absolutely cosmic blast of power. And that's what it is. It's a source of power. It's a power source. And it's actually also a quantum process, meaning it's a way that we can channel our conscious focus and really manipulate our consciousness and learn how to manipulate energy. And I think that's why we all reincarnate here. And that's why we're here today. And we can do it through our feelings. But why then do we run away from them? We develop all these like really sophisticated ways of running away from the very thing that we're looking for.
And interesting, because I've looked at, I've obviously watched all of your clips and your sneak preview trailer. One of the things that stuck with me was the fact that we are essentially from a young age taught to think all the time, think rather than feel. And feelings actually has been suppressed. It's like for example, as a young boy, you're like, oh, you feel like don't be a girl, don't cry, don't express your feelings, or the fact that you're upset because your father's gone away, or your mum's gone, or whatever. So it's quite interesting, really, because that side, the kind of feeling side, it's something that I've always stuck to anyway, and I've always has always resonated with me for some reason, and I've been lucky enough to kind of keep that. But I can see how modern society. Maybe that is improving, but that side of things, feeling, has always been thrown out really, and we're kind of taught at schools, university, everything to analyze, think, but surely that what do you think in terms of the balance of that in modern society?
Man, you just hit the nail on the head, especially for men in the Western society. It really, we get told, don't cry, don't feel that. You don't want to be like that, and then we end up, in our partialness, feeling fragmented and fractured, and we split from our true selves. And, it's absolutely criminal that our education system ignores this. It's overlooked by science. It's even really overlooked by psychology, and that may be a weird claim, and it's something that I'm qualified in, and I'm all for it, but I think there's an energetic component that is hugely missed, and we've got to change that. This is something that we all need to start utilizing and learning how to leverage to make life go in our favor. It truly is, Jamie, feeling is healing. It's not rocket science. It's so simple. Just allow yourself to feel the feelings and start to remove judgment of some of the negative feelings and watch your life literally transform. I think that you're right as well about the mind. We absolutely live in a mind-based consciousness. Right now we're in 3D, and it is really, all about the head, all about intellect, being intellectual, and can you think your way through, right? And I like to say it's not about figuring it out at all. It's about feeling it through. So I just want to change all of that so that we can literally right size our perspective, because I think it's actually been inverted, or at least completely and utterly misunderstood. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, and it's time to take a stand, and people like you especially, be a role model and get out there and say, what, I feel like this, and it's okay to show your feelings. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be an emotional being and embrace that aspect of being human. That's what we're here for. But we are in a shift. So you see all of our stuff coming up, and it feels really difficult to deal with sometimes, because I do think that we're moving towards more of a heart-based consciousness, which is actually a non-polarity organ, right? So that's where you get your unity consciousness, we are all one, bliss brain, right? Anandamide going on, beautiful, beautiful. But right now, we still really are predominantly in the polarity-based organ of the mind, which says black, white, good, bad, depressed, happy, whatever.
It's more binary. It's like the binary. It's shifting from a binary kind of system. So, and it's quite interesting going back on your previous point around we're kind of judged, and I have actually seen a shift in this in the workplace. Where I've been lucky enough to work in the last couple of years, is that intelligence is always kind of focused. The measure was always your IQ. Okay, what's their IQ? What's this? Where what I've slowly seen start coming into the workplace or just be spoken about a lot more is emotional intelligence, EQ, and hopefully there is something in that which links to this, because I think. You can be, and typically, so I've worked with software engineers previously, so they are extremely smart individuals, don't get me wrong, on paper. However, if you put them into a room with people from different backgrounds, totally diverse, whether that be industry, race, creed, whatever, they would struggle. 8 times out of 10, I'd say they'd struggle because they don't know how to interact effectively. Now, surely that's where it comes down to okay, so what would you say is more powerful? And emotional intelligence was someone that can read a room, understand that one person is maybe a bit more overconfident, let's say. So they're going to talk for the room. And then that means others that are more introverted, they're going to be left in the corner. So to be able to then pick them and pull them out and give them a voice as well, surely that proves that emotional intelligence is more important than IQ.
100%, man. You just nailed it again. For me,
Promise this wasn't
intelligence.
scripted.
Yeah, no, right? Emotional intelligence, blah, 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 mouthful. It's the name of the game. And I call it sentient intelligence, right? Because I think sentience brings in another aspect.
Yeah.
It is not consciousness, but it helps bring that element in so that we can understand it more on a vibrational frequency sense. So we have like what's called an emotional or vibrational ladder, where I would put kind of hopelessness at the bottom and maybe like gratitude, compassion, acceptance, unconditional love at the top. And we can move up the ladder based on what we're feeling. And that is hard IQ, right? That's feeling it through, not figuring it out. And I think that is so much more important and is starting to become a hell of a lot more important and will be more and more and more as the years tick on, because that's what we're moving into. And we're being called, each and every one of us, to shift from the head to the heart.
So for people that this may be a bit scary, talking about these kind of things, or a bit alien, let's say. So if you don't mind explaining some of the things like consciousness, for example. So can you explain what consciousness is in layman's terms, if possible, or at least how you know?
Consciousness to me is the ability to be aware. It's awareness, essentially. And when you bring it in to the feeling world, into the realm of emotions, you see that you cannot feel without being aware that you're having a feeling. So consciousness is kind of like the fabric of our universe. You can think of it as, I like to think of it as sacred geometry, that you can't see, but you can feel and you can pick up on and you can detect. And in that way, right, we've relied on our five senses, our traditional, conventional five senses. So we're programmed, from a very young age. If I can't see it and I can't measure it with a stick, then it must not be real. Well, guess what? There's 6 senses and 7 senses, and I would say infinite amounts of senses, but actually emotion is a sense, and it was the first sense. And it interplays and sort of works together with consciousness to weave our reality, what we call our physical reality, which is really just energy condensing down from the ether into physical form, right? And so consciousness is something that runs through us, that is us, essentially. And once we sort of start to tap into that, we can learn to manipulate it. And we can learn that actually what causes suffering is blocking the natural flow of consciousness. And that's a whole new ballgame right there. And I know it's scary, and I know some of these words are big, so I do like to bring this guy to the street. I don't want to alienate people, and I'm comfortable using some of those, that lingo, but I also really want it to be accessible to everybody. This doesn't have to be a PhD situation, and it also doesn't have to be like, you have to be a yogi meditating on a mountain for 50 years situation. It's accessible to all of us now, because consciousness it's literally available to everybody, and so are our emotions. And that's where sentience, I think, is where that kind of emotional intelligence and consciousness collide, in that awareness. And in that, you can become the conscious observer of your own actions. You can start to bear witness to your own pain. You can start to bear witness to other people's pain. And in that way, we start to make major progress in gaining compassion and empathy for each other. We're all doing our very best. And suddenly, this is what's called raising your vibration, right? It's literally developing that empathic view for your fellow, who ultimately is you, really. At the end of the day, quantum science is proving this, peer-reviewed science, that we are all one. And what we're experiencing now, Jamie, is a holographic reality, and actually I'm reflecting you back to you, and you're reflecting me back to me. And I think it's so cool to think about it like that, because it gives you command over these things like emotions that we used to think just happened to us. And I want to shift that and say, like, you can really see it now, change your perspective, that everything's happening for you. And you have a choice. You have a choice how you use your consciousness. It's a fun game you can start to play. And you also have a choice in how you feel. That's a game changer.
And I think some of the misconceptions to being a feeling, and again I want your input on this actually, to being someone that feels can be when people are portrayed to being, oh, they're always so happy, so positive, so happy all the time. That's not real though, is it? If you see someone that is happy all the time, does that, if you see someone, for example, do you typically you would think they're hiding something, or they're not willing to show, or maybe they're not aware that showing a side of pain or fear is not allowed, or is that something you've seen previously?
Oh my gosh, over and over again in what I do, because I studied as an art psychotherapist, but I really see it's evolved into more energy healing, because everything is energy. Emotion is energy. It's energy in motion. And I see it all the time. I see people blocking themselves from the true essence of who they really are. And usually they don't know it. And you're so right that it's subconscious programming. It all goes back to that. We're programmed from birth to the age of 7 by our caregivers, whoever they may be. And when you're that age, your brain is literally in theta brainwaves, right? So you're literally recording what you're witnessing from your primary caregivers and from your environment and the world around you, teachers, etc. And so that's all set, so to speak. Now I'm going to put a little comma on that, because you can change it anytime you want, with the power of your thoughts, with the power of your feelings, and most of all, with the power of your beliefs. Your beliefs underpin everything. So I would really challenge. Beliefs.
You don't mean religions?
My challenge to anyone. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I say you don't mean religions or anything, do you? Just beliefs that.
No, just what you believe
values.
To be true. Paradigms. So do you believe that the world is against you? Do you believe you're a victim, or do you believe actually, you've got a loving environment and things always work out for you? Those are two very different vibrational realities. Yeah, exactly. And you're going to get very different experiences in this life, and your sentient experience from feeling that on the inside. So our outer worlds are always reflecting our inner worlds. That's what creates our reality, is how we truly feel. So if you don't know what you don't know, you've got some work to do, right? And so that's what I was going to say, was like, my biggest challenge to anybody is, if you're struggling, or if you're going like, oh my gosh, I feel awful, the same thing keeps coming up, I keep getting dumped by guys who cheat on me. They cheat on me all the time, right? Same pattern, because you'll see it happens again and again and again, to call your attention to what belief you're buying into to make you feel that way. And once you start to learn how to rectify that, you see your whole life as a vibrational feedback system. This is encoded in our biology. It's a biochemical feedback system. So you can go, oh, what would I have to believe to feel this way? And what would I have to believe to keep seeing this pattern repeat over and over and over again, making me miserable, right? And then it's like, oh, maybe I believe that I'm not really good enough. Maybe I believe that nobody loves me. And then you trace that back, and you don't really have to go much further than that to go, I'm going to start feeling the feelings of not good enough. I'm going to bring my conscious focus to it. I'm going to become aware of it. I'm going to name it and acknowledge it. And that's all you have to do. Feel it through.
So rather than put it in a bottle, you're kind of going, okay, I need to face this. I need to face this feeling, or feeling of not being good enough, or whatever it may be, and by let it out. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by so if I'm facing something, how do I go about letting something out, or going about feeling it properly?
You can write it out. I mean, there's a lot of ways of expressing it. Keep a journal, talk to a good friend, scream in a pillow if it's anger, right? Because all these feelings, even the ones we deem bad, are actually messengers. They're just here to give us a message. Emotion is information, and it's literally encoded in the field all the time, right? The field consciousness that's around us. And that's what we're picking up on. So it's really essential to start to develop that sense, and you practice, right? This is training. And you can start to go, okay, I feel it. I'm not going to resist it, because I know that if I resist it, it will persist. What we resist persists. And instead, I'm going to focus my attention on it. And where attention goes, energy flows. And you want to get that flow, right? Okay, I'm feeling it and it feels like this, and bring your attention to the body. Because what's actually shocking to spiritual inquiry is that enlightenment is embodiment. And we all think it's all out here all the time. It's in here. And anytime you've got a feeling, it's a sensation. Again, you get the root word of sentience, right? So you want to pay attention to those sensations in the body, because they will be literally metabolizing your emotion. Isn't that cool?
There's just so much to, I don't even know where to start with it, is the thing. So like, I guess you, one of the things I mention to people as well is saying about your gut instinct. Your gut instinct's there. You know, when so many people say, I had that, I should have gone with my instinct. But yet no one, well, not no one, but you know, there are a section of people that just don't ever do that. Why do you think that is? What's stopping them kind of?
We've been programmed not to listen to that beautiful voice within, you know, because we can't see it and we can't measure it with a stick, like I talked about. So we go, oh, it must not be real. And then we have, you know, caregivers and teachers and friends and society along the way go, that's a bit out there, that's a bit cuckoo, you know. And so psychic becomes a dirty word, and intuition is something that's just completely misunderstood. And it's a built-in resource designed for us to guide us through this life, which is hard enough as it is. And this is why we all get lost, or most of us, myself included. You know, I got really stinking lost, and I took escaping my emotions to the extreme because I didn't listen to that beautiful voice. I didn't listen to the gut instinct. I didn't think that it was worthy. I couldn't even hear it at one point. And that's when I believe that our highest self or spirit or consciousness, whatever you want to call it, source on the other side, is actually, they will use our body to try to get through to us. And that's when you start outputting in things like illness, you know, dis-ease. For me, it was a really awful addiction to alcohol. I almost died 7.5 years ago, trying to escape my emotions, trying to run away from my own sentience. And I had to go through that to truly value it. And I guess that's why I can't stop this burning desire to share what I'm becoming more aware of. And this is an ongoing process. And I definitely do not think that I'm by any stretch some kind of, you know, expert on the subject, but I'm feeling my way through, and I help other people do the same. And I get so much from the beautiful privilege of being a part of somebody else's spiritual growth and personal development process. And that's what I think ascension really is. Again, root word, sentience, ascension, sensation, right? It all boils down to this sense that you just talked about, that you can feel in the gut. And there's hardcore science now, this is peer-reviewed science again, that is proving that the heart receives information faster than the brain. And the heart can measurably react to something in the field before it even happens. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's insane.
I know.
Again, because I imagine it's picking up on the vibration. It's picking up on the frequency in around you. And even, it'd be good to go into your background a little bit, because even whenever we have hung out, you do have this energy that just surrounds you, like good energy, obviously, of course. But there is something that is kind of vibrating nicely around you. Did obviously you touched on it just then, said that you had your own challenges you had to get through. Let's go back kind of 15 years. You know, what I'm just trying to kind of highlight to other people that may be in a similar situation, and maybe just to kind of highlight that you were just, let's say, a normal person going along their regular life, but you know, what has got you to this point? What's kind of clicked finally to make you realize, okay, I need to go and not only I need to change myself, I need to now go and speak to, I mean, for your documentary, how many, there's 2 documentaries, how many people did you speak to? Because I know you've been traveling for a lot, a couple of years or a year or so, right?
better part of a year and a half now, all over the world, really. And it has been the greatest blessing because, you know, it was really hard. 15 years ago, you wouldn't have even recognized me physically, vibrationally, you know, in my personality, anything. I was a party girl, you know, and I don't like the word normal because I think we all aspire to be. Oh, no, it's not you. I like just to make that, I just like to make that point because I think we all then go, oh my God, I have to be that normal. Yeah. What is normal? What is normal? And what is sane, actually? I think we have all of it ass backwards, right? And upside down, if I'm honest. I think we walk around disconnected and we think that that's sane, and we think it's normal to go out and escape in all these different ways. And I thought that too. And I did that to fit in. But the truth of the matter is I really did that because I was so full of fear inside that I didn't know how to live life. And it got to the point where I didn't want to do life anymore because it was too painful. And the rock bottom that I had didn't give me a choice anymore. So how I see that now is that my guidance went, okay, Kristin, you didn't get the messages. We've tried to tell you a million times. We made all these bad things happen. We were whispering, then we were sort of raising our voice, then we were shouting, and then we were screaming at you, stop living life this way. You've got a purpose, a greater purpose than this. Wake up, you know? Who are you? And that was like it. And my rock bottom was awful. I'm not afraid to say it was, I got raped. I ended up in the hospital. I needed 2 blood transfusions. It saved my life. I heard a voice that day. And it was very clear. It said, don't close your eyes. And all I could see were my baby girls. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at the time that I loved more than anything in this universe. And I could not stay sober for them. What does that tell you? What is this addiction and the programs? I mean, they can have this power over you that literally enslaves you, that it makes you literally not the host of your own body, you know? And that was the best day of my life, funnily enough. It was my 33rd birthday, 2012. That was, 7.5 years ago. And I went, I surrender. I will do this your way because I don't want to die. And I want my babies to have a mom. And I literally devoted my life to being of service to other people that day. And, you know, I'm not like some kind of saint. I go around like a normal person. I have bad days and I can definitely mess up. And but I do really try to be really aware of what I'm beaming out to the world all the time. And whoever is in front of me at this moment in time, I do try to be of service and I try to help it in some way, shape, or form. Is it just by giving them a compliment? Is it by smiling? Is it by actually reaching out more and saying, are you okay? You don't seem okay, or whatever. And that's grown and sort of morphed over the years. And now, like in the manifestation of these 2 films, it's sort of gained a different, I guess, look, if you will, but it's the same thing. And to me, that's really where it all starts, is in that place of, I've been there too, you know, and in that place you can help someone else. And I think this peer-reviewed science, there's a lot of studies that are now really proving that if you've had that same wound and you reach out to someone and help them in that signature, right? In the same, like, okay, you've had cancer too, right? For instance, using that as an example. And I survived it. Let me reach out and speak to you, and we can just connect. And something magical happens in that connection, especially if it's in a small group or a large group, but it doesn't have to necessarily be large. That studies are showing, if you actually set an intention to heal someone else who has the same affliction that you have, the healing comes back to you.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's an absolutely groundbreaking scientific discovery that we're not using to our advantage at all, you know? And I know everyone wants to go out and have fun and stuff like that, but I think our definition of fun needs to be redefined. I also think our definition of emotion needs to be redefined, and I most certainly think we need to deconstruct sentience.
Wow. So essentially it sounds like you've obviously, knowing a bit about you took yourself through, you become a counsellor, you're helping a number of people, but by doing these films, it seems that you've now you're going to help more. You can help more people. You've realised that, okay, helping one or two people is great. It's actually it's giving yourself what you know to these individuals that really need your help. But I guess by creating these two films now hopefully everyone will have access to a bit of you, a bit of your learning, and take something from it. I mean, what are you hoping to achieve with when you release these two films? Is there something separately from each one, or is there something overall that you're wanting people to take away from it?
I think it's pretty simple. Heal yourself, heal the world. You are the universe, and if you go within and you make your own world better, brighter, more resonant with your highest self, then you literally are a fractal of the whole. So you're doing that for the world, and so your output, right? What you beam out is happiness, is more love, is a greater capacity for compassion, and you'll start to see that. And then it has a knock-on effect, a domino effect, the 100th monkey effect, right? So really what I hope to spark is a revolution, but I'm not sparking it. We're already in the middle of it. We're in the middle of a spiritual awakening. And I'm not afraid to use the words. I think everything is spiritual. So this does not mean, you have to go and, meditate for 5 hours every day in a dark room with, your candles and doing this mantra. This means living life all the time, connected to your feelings, connected to yourself, feeling the full spectrum of your feelings. And in that way, we can make a huge impact on our world, which really needs it right now. Look at what we're going through, Jamie. Look at where we are. Pandemics, and horrible political infighting and poverty and environmental crises. I mean, we're destroying our planet, and we're really worried about our carbon footprint, and we should be. But I'm saying, what about our emotional footprint? Because I think if we get it that way around, everything else starts to shift naturally. And we're coming up with, that Einstein quote with we've got to raise the level of consciousness because we can't solve our problems with the same level of consciousness of which they were created. Something like that. That was obviously paraphrasing badly. But you get the
sounded legit to me.
That's what I want to do. And so it's not my story, and I want to be clear, this is not a story about addiction. It starts off from my story, but swiftly moves on, because I don't want it to be about me. It's about this
context.
Beautiful message that is coming through the films, through all of these amazing voices that have been so incredible in giving me their time and their wisdom. Dr. Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Lynn McTaggart, Dr. Sue Mortar, Daryl Anka, Magenta Pixie, Marina Jacobi. I could go on and on and on. There's
who are you most nervous about meeting? Obviously, there's a lot of big names there. Was there any particular? I only say this from my own point of view, where I've kind of over prepared sometimes, and then I've just it's come across okay, but I've just felt extremely wooden. How did you? I know. How did you deal with some of these people?
It's hard to just relax into it and be natural. And I was really nervous for a lot of them, to be honest. I did start to get comfortable with over time. I had to read loads of books, really good, lots of which I've already read, because these are my heroes. I gave up television 7 years ago, right? Because I saw it for the fear porn that it was. I I used to be a reporter in the news media. I used to work at MSNBC.
Wow.
And so I've shifted completely to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And that's part of my message. But I was most nervous to meet, I think Dr. Antonio Damasio is quite nervous to meet, because he understands consciousness from a neurologist perspective.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was oh my gosh, it goes really deep, and I love geeking out on the science, but I am not a scientist,
Okay. So he can challenge you.
That was a challenge. And the other one was Dr. Bruce Lipton, because of the circumstances. It was the fires in California. And I was flying over some of these. I did one-man banding practically. And so I was flying over and once again, sort of doing this crazy in and out trip, you know, over 2 days because I had to get back for the kids. And so I'm sort of multitasking all the time here. And it was really touch and go whether I could interview him or not. We were running on generators. We had no Wi-Fi. I didn't know how safe it was going around. I was in the middle of nowhere, sort of, you know, near San Francisco. And I used to have a huge fear of driving on the motorway. So to rent a car and drive on the, you know, motorway around San Francisco on my own. And all of this is about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Yeah. So this whole process has been one massive learning curve of like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. Oh my God, who do I think I am? Oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. You know, to getting there, sitting down and doing it, and then going, oh my God, I just did it. I just interviewed Bruce Lipton. He's one of the most amazing voices in pioneer. He's a pioneer of consciousness, you know, in the world. And I just can't believe I was sat opposite, you know, this man. So it's been a huge blessing, but also really stinking scary.
But like you said, it's pushing yourself to that, getting out of your comfort zone, because we are extremely versatile and adaptable as a human race, as a race. So I think that's it leads back to your point really about feeling. It feels good to feel scared, but then just jump on it anyway, and then you'll get through it. You know, you're not going to. Typically, you'll come out the other end.
Oh my God, Jamie, that's the expansion of consciousness right there. That is it. What we have not made conscious feels scary because it's uncertain, and you have to take a risk because you don't get the luxury of knowing the outcome. Yeah. But that's why we came here. It's essentially a great big, I think, experience machine or ascension machine, if you will, where we get to learn and grow from this ability to become more and more aware of what we're feeling and who we are. And I think we're really being called, like I said earlier, to step up and understand ourselves a little bit more as multidimensional beings. And I know, again, that might be sort of weird and frightening to some people, but I think that all that means really is embracing these other senses and learning how to use the exquisite resource of sentience to optimize our life, to thrive, to start to heal our traumas. We can move into a world right now where our traumas literally start to decrease in percentage, generation after generation after generation, because all of this is energetic. So we're all carrying through ancestral patterns and programming in our DNA from literally 15 generations ago.
Wow. But
if you heal it, it stops here. And not only that, it has a knock-on effect, because there's this thing called emotional contagion.
Okay.
And it's like our vibration is contagious. You've heard of the law of attraction, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean think of a Lamborghini and it appears in your driveway, obviously. A little bit more complicated than that. It has to do with what we're actually feeling in our hearts and how that is reflected all the time in our external world. And once we really get down into that understanding and start pumping that muscle, right, we start to understand that we can shift things and work them in our favor. And think, instead of the Lamborghini, maybe I invite people to think, what feeling is that Lamborghini going to give me? Because that's what you're really after.
Yeah. It's not the material, of course.
No. And we've been indoctrinated by this reductionist, materialist view, and it's all steeped in a story that is completely false. We buy into this Darwinian theory of evolution, that we're meat sacks and we don't matter, and it was just an accident that we somehow mutated into this thing called a human. And not only that it's competition, not cooperation, that makes the world go round. Well, guess what? That's again ass backwards and upside down. And we've got to get it in the right order if we're ever to evolve and save our planet. So I guess I started feeling brave about a year and a half ago, like you did recently. And I'm so proud of what you're doing. I think it's so awesome. And really step up and go, hang on, I have a voice, I have a message, and I want to say it. You know, you are a hugely powerful soul, a human being with infinite power and potential. Don't limit yourself from the self-limiting beliefs. Don't limit yourself from, you know, believing you're a victim and all these insecurities that might rule your life. Start to bring your conscious awareness to it. Your consciousness never brings anything to your attention that you're not ready for. And that's why it expands slowly. And so I trust in the natural intelligence of the universe that this is all expanding in the time that it's supposed to. But I also think that it's up to each and every one of us to help each other along. And the more we do that, the quicker that we make our way or find our way to that beautiful world that I talked about, where unity consciousness reigns and we see the end of polarity, because duality as we know it is literally splitting apart. We are moving towards a non-dualistic society, and that is so exciting. But as that happens, it feels really shit, because you get all of your crap emotions that you haven't dealt with yet coming up. And you also, as you become more aware, start to tap into the feelings of the collective. So then you have to go, is this mine? Is this even mine? I don't know. So that's when it, you know, can become really kind of interesting. But if you get good at just staying with the feeling, you start to flourish instead of drown in these times of change. You know, that we're experiencing lower magnetic fields on the earth than we have in the past 200 years. And in periods of low magnetic fields, humans typically start wars, if you look at the history.
Really? Oh my God.
It's a period of extreme chaos and division and violence, because in low magnetic fields, it magnifies everything. But actually, those with heart-brain coherence, who align their heart with their brain, with their gut, let's not forget the gut processing center, that's what alignment really is. When you use your breath and you do the inner work and you start to acknowledge your feelings, those with heart-brain coherence start to flourish. So that's why I started this interview by saying, you know, I'm actually experiencing flourishing and an abundance of creativity during this time of chaos, because I continue to do the work. And it is an ongoing process. We're continuously deconstructing our programs, fears, all these conditions put on us by not only society today, but millennia of society, the Darwinian theory that I talked about, and also Newtonian physics, right? We could get into this whole conversation about quantum bylaw, and that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, wow.
But we're truly co-creating our holographic universe. And I want to say that with a caveat that that does not mean it doesn't matter and that it's a game. That means that it is you who instills the meaning in this life. And we've been taught by video games and violent movies and everything to devalue life. And it's time to shift that, to say, do you know what? This is a precious gift, and I'm going to embrace it. And I'm going to start today.
So packaging this, let's say if I've got an, I'm going to use the name Dave, sorry, just because it's just a very common name. Just say Dave down the pub, or my neighbour Dave, very traditional man. What can someone like myself or anyone that's listening, what can they do to help themselves to start shifting to this more aligned mind, heart and gut, as well as then having an impact or just nudging these other people along?
You do that without you even knowing it. You do that by getting in heart-brain coherence yourself. And that's, again, peer-reviewed science. You walk into a room, if you're in a high vibration, you affect everyone else in that room. You literally lift their vibration. Really? So this is easy to see when you look, like, you walk into a room where a couple's been fighting and you're like, ooh. You've heard the expression like, oh, I could cut the air with a knife, right? that exists and we acknowledge it, right? But we then don't follow through with realizing that that's working for us all the time, whether we know it or not. So the best way you can help Dave down at the pub is to help yourself. And then you're an agent of emotional contagion. You are an infectious little agent of change. And you can literally start beaming out light, right? Because consciousness is light all across the universe, everywhere you go. And this is also non-local. So you can even think of Dave down at the pub, and you don't even have to interact with him to have an effect on Dave at the pub's reality.
Wow.
I used to wonder how I could affect someone at the other end of the world, and it took me this whole journey to realize it's by affecting myself, because that all is a reflection of me, and that's where the real change is.
Is that also linked to then quantum entanglement?
It is essentially entanglement. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, because any particle in me is also in you, or can be at the same time. Again, I'm not a scientist.
Yeah. So we need to get away from the particle thing and look at it like a wavelength thing, right?
Of course, yeah.
And how we're all affecting everything all the time, and the universe is the sum total of all of these parts. And the crazy thing is that it actually has to achieve like a 0 point or a point of neutrality all the time. So it's this beautiful dance of energies that we're a part of, right? At any given moment, in the now moment, in the present moment, you hear a lot about that, right? Because that's really all that is. And, time is just kind of separating ourselves in individual experiences, space, time, and duality, but all that is shifting. And it's I think it's really, really important for all of us to take all of those concepts and then ground them and go, well, how can I actually implement this in my life today? So your question was super important, because then maybe you can consciously go to Dave at the pub and go, I want to make an impact on Dave's life. I know Dave's been having a hard time because Dave's getting a divorce. I'm going to ask Dave about himself. I'm going to reach out in that signature where I know, because I've been hurt in that same signature, and say, guess what? I had a divorce too. It sucked. And I'm connecting then with Dave from the heart, and the heart leaps across the fence. Miracles happen. And it really does start with us, And again, I'm not asking anyone to go out and be a saint. No, we came here to live this life. We came here to have these relationships. We came here to learn and grow, and relationship is the best way we know how to do that. I mean, we're always in relationship with everything, but everything ultimately is a mirror reflecting back your vibration. So think about it like that, because anytime you call someone something bad, right? Oh, you're so selfish. I would point the finger back at yourself and go, okay, where am I being selfish? But even more so, where did I learn that being selfish was bad? Right? So I actually see selfish as a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of my journey was about redefining all of these words.
Yeah, wow.
We need to fill up our own cups before we can give it to another.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because where on one of the previous episodes we spoke about mind body syndrome, where typically you have it's not exclusively for these types of individuals, but it's I'd say a larger portion of people suffer that from mind body syndrome when they are giving. They're constantly giving. And it means that they're not having time, or not being selfish enough with what they're giving, because you need to give to yourself to be able to then give to others. One thing I've always said to in all of my relationships, to be honest, is like you need to love yourself. You need to love yourself before you can love anyone else. And I think that's it's something that for me will always ring true. Not just in me from myself, but anyone that I speak to, I would say you need to put yourself first, because no one else will.
I mean, oh my God, I'm a huge advocate of that, and it's also misunderstood hugely in our society. It's also the paradox, right? We've been talking about giving to heal yourself, but actually you want to be giving to yourself. So I think it's, again, that's a constant dance, and you need to learn how to live in this world of polarities and find your way through. And I talk about the PowerPoint of paradox, where you can hold both polarities at the same time. So you can give when you need to, and then save for yourself when you need to. And somehow, some way, you reach that 0 point, that neutrality, when you start to learn how to do that. Again, this is practice and training. I also want to point out that when you put a lid on, say, anger, which is at like sort of a lower end of the spectrum here, you also put a lid at the other end of the continuum up here, which might be something like passion, right?
Wow.
And so anytime you're cutting off one ebb of the vibrational ladder or the vibrational pie chart, you're cutting off the other ebb too. And this is where you get anxiety, depression, flip sides of the same coin that we see manifest everywhere in our society today. I mean, mental health is at an all-time high. We are experiencing a mental health crisis. This is a global emotional emergency. That's why we're seeing it outpicturing in pandemics and extreme division and environmental crises like we've never seen before. And so when we go in and do that work and start to reclaim fragmented aspects of self and start to learn to love ourselves, we then become capable to sometimes, when we know that we have it, give it out to others. And then we also know that we can ask others for help when we need it too.
I think also it's something that I've been observing. I think coming to a new country, obviously I've been here for a while now, nearly 4 years, but leaving a big place like London, coming to Malta, which is obviously 1/10 the size of London, it's quite, you end up being more observant because you have to be, because you don't have a big group of friends like before. But also then, and I think this is one thing, and this is just my view, it'd be good to get your input on this. And this isn't just aimed at men either, but one thing that I found is that I was observing more, even if I was in a bar or in a restaurant or a coffee shop, say with kind of 4 or 5 other people that I know I'm an acquaintance of, but then I'd always be aware if, say, there is a new person that's come to a group or a new person in the room, and just kind of try and very subtly open that group, or open that, giving them a segue in because I think I don't know whether people do it through fear, but you can always see that people you have cliques that form quite easily, and I wonder if by being aware that there is a clique and trying to open it, that is an easier, or one of the first couple of steps you can do to help other people.
It so is, and I've always loved that about you. I've noticed that you've done that loads of times in the past, being out with you. You're always going, and you're bringing in the stragglers, right? And that's definitely what we need to be doing a lot more of, is becoming a little bit more aware of our environment, using that intuition and going, oh my gosh, Susie over there in the corner looks not so happy. Maybe I'm going to go and introduce myself, or, carry on the conversation, or maybe just ask her how she is, There's no separation between anything. And so when we really realize that, we can start to break down some of our own insecurities, because that's really at the basis of all of those cliques that you're talking about, I think, is insecurities. And what happens is people feel more secure in groups and cliques, but what you get is that's formed in the ego. Again, that goes back to the mind-based mentality, polarity, where everything's black, white, good, bad, I have to fit in or I'm completely out. Well, we live in the gray. And when we make this journey and start to go, okay, actually, it's not so black and white. Maybe I'm a little bit more like Susie in the corner than I thought I was. Maybe my ego doesn't have to take over and tell me I need to be part of the group. Maybe I can separate and go be that agent of change and bring her in, So I think definitely, I love that you just said that.
Ego. So
Ego.
This is an interesting one, ego. How can you identify that ego is is calling the shots, and how can you overcome, or at least try and start, I don't know, smash it apart sounds terrible, but just dissecting it a little bit, just to know that it's not in control. What can you do to do that?
I would say if you're defensive about something, ego's involved. If you're judging, ego's involved. Simple.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think ego stands for edge God out, and I use God in a very universal sense. Source, goddess.
Okay.
Universal intelligence. But yeah, I think that it also is misunderstood and gets a bad rap, because if we're running completely on ego, which is on overdrive because we're feeling so horribly insecure, really, which is why the ego has to rise up and protect us no matter what. That's the ego's job. It's a firewall, right? And it will shut the gate to anything that will give you pain or cause you pain. That's what it's designed to do. It got us through those childhood years where we were in training, gamma rays, and recording all of this behavior and trying to survive and fit in, right? Because we didn't have the luxury of our adulthood and our full independence, if you will, and maturity to protect us or to do otherwise. And nobody teaches us this. Nobody teaches us. And I think that is absolutely criminal. That these concepts should be the very concepts that we start out at. It's in schools. You need to know what the ego is and when it is getting on overdrive, so that they can catch it and then go into the insecurity, feel it through, identify the source, get help if they need to in expressing it, and allow the conscious flow to completion. But we don't, and we get stuck in the mind and trapped in the ego, and it goes round and round again, and it protects all these personalities that aren't even us. And I think that's frightening, because that's how we're manipulated. That's how we're controlled, because we're running 95% of the time, Bruce Lipton said, on subconscious programming. And so the ego comes out and goes, no, I'm not going to let anything else in. And that prevents us then from true intimacy into me, see? And that actually ultimately prevents us from having true authentic connections and prevents us from happiness. That's why we're all searching for it. We don't know where it is. Well, it's right here. It's been here all along. But what I will say is that the ego needs to be right-sized. So it's not about getting rid of the ego. So just like a bad feeling, same process. You want to bring it into the wholeness of who you are. Because once you are operating as a whole and full spectrum, and you go, okay, ego, thank you very much. I know I need you to have this individuated experience. I know I need you to sometimes protect me and show me when things are coming up that might hurt me, right? But we don't need the default mode network in the brain going off all the time, putting us in fight or flight, triggering a very overactive ego, when we're not actually in a world where like tigers are attacking us anymore, and so it's being activated by things like what grandma said 20 years ago. And we're still holding on to it. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to get it in check. So it is not about casting it out. Ego is bad. It's about right-sizing it and bringing it into the full spectrum of who you are. Yeah. Then it will start to operate and express in a positive polarization rather than a negative, right? If it's separate from you and rejected and operating from program, it's going to operate against you, because guess what? It's expressing negatively. But as soon as you bring it in, acknowledge it, because your awareness is love. We are made of pure love. That loving awareness is what dissolves the overactive ego, just like it dissolves resentment, right? And then it can start to operate for us, because we don't want to go out in this world with no ego, right? And we don't want to go out in this world with no anger either, or no fear. fear protects us from getting hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Fear protects us from getting in a bad relationship.
Yeah.
Like the last one. Fear, we're growing through these things, but we need to learn how to be with them and see them as informants from the soul, guidance systems that they rightfully are, and birthrights that we have that get all muddled in this mix of program. And that leaves us prey. And I want to go into this with you a little bit, Jamie, because I think that really does leave us vulnerable to manipulation by society, by others. And also then we start to project and blame ourselves, and it perpetuates this awful dysfunctional cycle that we see repeating in the world today on every level. And we don't have to do that anymore. We can change it right now.
How?
So, yeah.
Where do we start?
So, where do we start? Well, I would say start feeling the fullness of your feelings. Don't be afraid of it anymore.
Yeah.
Really start going, okay, what is it that I'm angry about? What is it that I'm harboring resentments about? Who am I resentful of? Do I have envy? Do I have jealousy? These have all been associated with like the 7 deadly sins. So we think it's bad to have all these feelings. It's not. It's natural. It's part of the human condition. You know? So if we start to go, okay, I'm going to acknowledge it, and I'm going to bring it into my awareness. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to meditate on the feeling, because that's another thing we do, is we try to meditate out of it, because you might be on a higher end of the spectrum, right? So not in the gutter like I was in alcoholism 7.5 years ago, wanting to die, not having a clue about feelings. You could be over here going, yeah, no, I'm really enlightened, and I'm just going to meditate my way through life, and I'm here in 5D, and this is awesome, and I love all of that, and we need all of that. But our job is to come here and be here in our bodies in 3D. And I think we can also take that escapism and sort of do that spiritual bypassing thing. And that's also detrimental to our growth individually and collectively. And meditation is the key if you learn to use it in conjunction with your feelings and not as an escape from your feelings. Does that make sense?
That's really interesting. So going down this escapism route. So one of the things obviously I speak to people about and I've had numerous conversations about is when you and this is why I want to understand escapism, what you mean by it, is where, say, I am having a really tough week or a tough day, but I'm going to go. I've decided, okay, I'm going to go and cook a meal that's going to take an hour and a half. So there's a nice long process, but it just means then whilst doing that, I am escaping my bad day of energy, let's say, and for that hour and a half, I'm in peace because I'm not thinking about how bad my day's been or whatever happened at work or my relationship, whatever. I'm just focused about how this is going to taste, how it's going to look, and how I'm going to enjoy it. So, what levels of escapism are healthy, and what is not living at all, not experiencing real life as we should?
Yeah, great question, man. I would say what you just described for me there is mindfulness. So whether you know it or not, you're using that tool to be aware of what you're doing in that moment, despite the bad day. You're cooking and you're thinking about the flavors and you're activating the senses, and you can shift it. That is healthy. I would definitely categorize that in the healthy department, But what is not healthy is that if you were to come home from a bad day and go, I'm really mad. I'm really, really mad. I don't want to feel mad. I'm going to deny the mad feeling. I'm going to deny the anger, and I'm just going to sit here and drink beer, or I'm going to binge watch on Netflix, or I'm going to cook and I'm going to eat the whole flipping bowl of pasta for 4 in one setting.
Can happen. It does happen.
These are just some of the ways that we do it. I've done it loads. I still do it sometimes in different ways, not in the form of alcohol, by the grace of God, because I have a solution for that problem today. But, I think it's about catching yourself, and this is where the phrase know thyself comes in,
Mm-hmm.
where you start to go, okay, this is a healthy transition of emotion because I've had a bad day and I'm coming home. No, I'm definitely not saying stay stuck in the bad emotion. Not at all. And that's the irony, because as soon as you start to feel it, it shifts. It goes organically, naturally.
So allow yourself to
so
be
when
angry.
I'm talking, sorry?
So basically allow yourself to be angry at that time, and then it disperses.
Yes, definitely. And get really good at healthy expressions of anger, you know? Okay, some of the working out stuff is good, but that can also be taken to an extreme like anything else. I mean, I went through a period where I was running like half marathons every day, trying to run away from myself, you know? And it got to the point where I was screaming in the middle of London, like in parks and stuff, just because I had so much anger. And this was all sort of culminating in the really awful years of what I would call acute alcoholism, where I just didn't know what to do with myself. And I was like crawling out of my skin if I wasn't drinking, but I know I shouldn't. And I was trying this and that and the other to stay sober, and nothing was working. And I just felt like life had defeated me and it was over, and I was absolutely hopeless and helpless. Lowest ebb of the vibrational scale. And that's where suicidal thoughts come in, and that's where you give up on life, you know? And I did, but life wasn't ready to give up on me. And that, I think, is the thing, is, you know, catching it before it gets that low. We don't have to suffer. That's one of my main messages. You know, and we definitely aren't alone. We all feel so lonely, especially in the Western world. We tend to separate ourselves, and, you know, obviously lockdowns heightening that hugely. And but it's also an invitation. It's also an invitation to start to put some of what I'm saying into practice, because, you know, this is something that we can all do right here, right now, and we can do it in our own ways. So you can make it your own as you learn and grow from it. And your body will tell you, because you've got to really learn to trust in your body and your emotions as that navigation system. It will tell you if you're taking it to the extreme the other way or not. And none of that is bad or good either. It's learning, and we're here to learn. And, you know, one of my biggest things is, like, all of my bad experiences and all of the people I've hated the most have been my greatest teachers. And I'm like huge on remaining teachable, and that takes a lot of humility. Yep. I don't know it all. I don't know anything, actually. And in that way, we can still grow, because this is a continuous process of expansion and a continuous process of getting to know ourselves on different levels, deeper and deeper. And we can't really make a mistake that way. We can't go off in the wrong direction. We're going to know about it, and we'll rein it back in, right? And part of life is having that experience, and we have free will. We can make any choice we want to. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can make the choice to have a really positive life experience, or you can make the choice to have a really shit life experience. Our emotions and our sentience is the key to all of that. It can take us to heaven, or it can take us to hell. Which way do you want to go?
I think the important thing as well is just to make sure you are living your life. I see my one concern or fear now is that, and you'll be able to actually shed some light on this, because you've got young. How young are the girls?
Well, they're almost 10 and 12. Next week is birthday week.
Oof.
Yikes! I know. Time flies when you're having fun. Let me tell you.
So now, obviously, I'm aware of things like TikTok, obviously Instagram. You know, the usual are out there, but with the likes of TikTok and now Instagram, and there will probably be a plethora of platforms that are continually built to grab the attention through video, or, you know, we're going to have virtual reality soon, which is going to really people, really going to engulf them in experiences that aren't real. Is that a concern? Is that a challenge on the horizon to this sentient way of living?
Yeah, I do think it is. I do think all those distractions and temptations are anti-sentient, again, because they're taking us away from ourselves. And I'm glad you brought that up. You're asking so many awesome questions. You're doing a really good job.
Just freestyling as well.
No, really, because I know I've done it so many times in the past year and a half, especially. Interviewing is hard. It's an art in itself. It's about conscious parenting. So when we talk about programs and when we become aware of the programs that we've been indoctrinated with, we can then start to look at our children and the children we have influence over if we don't have children. And this extends out to people who don't have children but might have other things that they are supposed to parent, if you will, projects, pets, businesses, initiatives, you name it. We're supposed to bring our conscious awareness to it. So conscious parenting means, okay, how about engaging more with my children and giving them my full attention? Because your undivided attention is invaluable. All of this consciousness stuff is really about focusing your attention. So, that means eye contact. I bend down on their level. I don't really have to bend down anymore, but I used to. You wouldn't believe when you see them next, Jamie. They're
really? Wow.
Getting so big. But yeah, hopefully that will be sooner rather than later when we come visit you in Malta. Exactly. But really, it's about also, taking the role of mother and seeing it differently. My girls are aware of all of this stuff that I'm telling you today because I've raised them since the ages of 2 and 4 when I got sober, like this. And so they choose not to engage in TikTok. I don't have to make that decision for them. That's not something they want to do. They like being outside. They like using their imagination. They like creating and doing art and baking and these things. Okay, we have iPads and sometimes they get on YouTube, but they watch craft videos and things like this. Look, I'm blessed with beautiful girls who are pretty good, but I also know that a lot of that is a byproduct of conscious parenting that I've adopted and worked with. I'm definitely not perfect at it, far from it, but I am using in our daily lives, and it makes a huge impact on them. And also, I've healed a lot of those unresolved traumas, those unprocessed emotions, and those unhealed wounds. And so the next generation is coming in with less of that. Of course, this is different per family because, part of this is that ancestral programming that I talked about that comes down your family line, which is just an energetic pattern. But as soon as we bring our conscious awareness to it, we can change it, because that activates at the level of DNA. So our emotions and our sentience turns on and off genes, literally. Peer-reviewed science. I mean, that to me is a game changer. There's no alcoholic gene. It's an activation of consciousness.
Yeah, and it's the environment, isn't it? The environment they're around. I remember. Yes. I wish I can remember the study I read about twins. They were separated, and one was in a quite toxic. I think they moved around foster care numerous times, and the other was in a stable home. And the other one got really ill. I think they had cancer and a number of diseases or illnesses. But the other one was fine, and they're genetically the same, but it's just the environments and the harmony around them, or lack of harmony, which shows that which leads to what you were saying in the first place about the frequency or the vibrations around you can have that impact internally, or other way around as well. So
yep, the field, absolutely. The field is affecting us, and we are affecting the field every second of every day. And that's huge, right? So what I'd like to ask is, what are you feeding the field right now? Because that's having an impact on your kids or your your partner or your parents or your coworkers, everybody. It is a ripple effect, you know? And yeah, I mean, it's so true what you're talking about. And you see it a lot with studies like that show children who've been neglected. Neglect is actually more damaging. Neglect is more damaging. I'm going to say it really clearly. Neglect is more damaging than abuse, physical abuse, because you feel like you're worthless, you're nothing. And that's the lowest ebb right there. And there was a study done in the 1920s at an orphanage in somewhere in Eastern Europe, I think it was, you know, where babies would get sick and die if they weren't touched and loved, right? Even though they were fed the same as other babies. So this is not rocket science. Us humans need connection and belonging more than we need water, practically. I mean, you know, I'm saying that sort of metaphorically, but you get my drift. We need it more than anything. And the one thing we cannot stand, and you said it earlier, is being left out. You know? So when somebody feels like they're not part of a group, or not part of their family, or they're the black sheep, or, you know, not part of society, not part of the community, they don't belong, that's when you start to see mental illness really manifest. And that's where the work is. And we've got a lot of work to do. In building up our communities, in reaching out from the heart, in being role models, in our own authenticity, being not afraid to share our stories, and really also in understanding this concept of self-regulation, which I think is really important. And it's like, oh my God, that sounds so boring, shoot me now. I want to kind of glamorize all of this stuff, because self-regulation is really talking about the appropriate, accurate, vibrationally resonant management of your emotions. And that is the gateway to higher levels of consciousness. So once we can do that, you take that feeling, you shift it, you're literally moving up the vibrational ladder. And when you do that, you're experiencing another dimension. And that's where you start to hear all this stuff about 3D, 4D, 5D, ascension, 5D, buzzwords, right, that are flying about right now. And they're real, because this is actually about attaining higher levels of energy, harnessing them, and using them to co-create a more compassionate humanity. It's just something we need to be doing.
Yeah,
it's something
amazing.
we need to be doing that we're not doing, right?
Yeah, this is unreal. Yeah, this is really, 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 really good. So I want to talk a little bit about religion, if you don't mind. Just something I watched this week, and it kind of links to, and I'm going to use the Catholic Church because I was raised as a Catholic, and it's not picking that out specifically. It's just I just want to talk about religion, but let's just use that as an example. And it goes to the kind of the feelings and the connecting with other people. And what I've been reading or watching about is about how sex is, porn is prevalent, overly accessible, you could say, and it means then that people are gratifying themselves just to do it because they're bored, because you know they're feeling impulsive for that minute or so, or whatever. And the church has always kind of said, or religion has always said, you know, no, you can't, you know, or has kind of suppressed the sexual side of being. Is that something, you know, is that linked? Is this kind of, could you say the sexual urges, as opposed to, you know, if you go back to the Greek, the ancient Egyptian times, or even the Greek era, you know, I'm not saying we should be doing orgies and stuff anyway, but, you know, there were lots of, it was a lot more free and open-spirited sex, where now it seems quite you know, if you see porn now, it's very like hard. There's no love to it. It's really like a transaction. Has religion had an effect on that, do you think? Or is that just another form of control that's allowing us or taking us off the path to feel how we should be?
That's an interesting question. I'm glad you brought up religion and all of its manifestations. Like anything, we can take it and use it to our advantage, or we can take it and use it against ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we've fought wars over religions for millennia because we all think that our perspective is right. And what I see is that everybody's perspective is right from their experience, right? From their lens. Yeah. And so there's infinite truths. That's why we're all here to experience. So it's why I keep banging on about sort of compassion and empathy, because I think we need to be a whole lot more accepting that there's more truths to be held than just ours. And maybe Bob over here is a Catholic and that works for him, but Susie over here is, a Hindu, and that's her thing. And then you have Joe, who's an atheist, agnostic, whatever, and he doesn't believe in anything. And we want to start to really encompass all of that is okay. We're here because we have different karma. We are here because we have different paths. We're here because we're different individuated experience, having this holographic reality reflected back to us all the time so that we can grow. So when you resist anything, Catholic Church, it's going to persist, and it's usually going to outpicture in some kind of distortion. So Catholicism has obviously been in the press for a while now because of all of the horrific things that are coming out about pedophilia and things like this. And that has to be named, like everything. Enlightenment means to be in knowledge of, right? So we have to bring our awareness to all the atrocities that are happening in the world. We cannot be an ostrich, put our head in the sand anymore. We can't pretend it's not happening. And we can't be enlightened and go up to 5D and just think, I'm going to transcend all of that because it's a bit yucky. No, we have to bear witness to the pain and suffering of those children. And that goes deep because there's a lot of stuff going on in that area. We don't have to go there, but I know the truthers who listen to this will know it's not good and it's real. And so what we need to do is really bring that into open awareness so that the distortion stops. It is not the Catholic Church at all. It's a beautiful thing. It's a negatively polarized expression of that particular section of religion because there has been suppression in it, right? So it goes back to the same thing, integration. I'm going to say it like a mantra. That's the key to wellness. And we don't have to experience that extreme suffering anymore. You know, people don't have to go through these horrific life experiences anymore because we can resolve them. We can do this now. We can do this in this instant, you know, we don't have to wait. And there's so much suffering still out there. So we all need to really name it, because I'll sort of go off in another tangent about the religious thing as well. Good. I used to hate religion. I grew up in the Bible Belt. I'm from Springfield, Missouri.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Missouri.
Ugh, I just saw like Baptist. No offense to again. I'm judging. This is the old me, you know. Sort of in super churches and all these things, and to me, I didn't feel a part of that. I didn't understand it. It didn't feel like it resonated with me. And so I completely threw the baby out with the bathwater and saw all religions are bad, they're uncool. And that's kind of the general attitude around it, really. And so I hated the word God. My mom kind of made me go to some church sometime. Yeah. My dad was a complete atheist. So I was getting this sort of contrasting thing going on where, you know, people who don't believe in our version of the Bible are going to go to hell. And I'm like, but my dad doesn't believe in it. My dad's like the nicest person I know and I love him. So what's that all about? So lots of people have had their own experience with it. So I had to find my way to opening my heart to explore religions lovingly. This has been part of my spiritual expedition.
Really, wow.
And take what works for me and look for the common threads amongst all of them. You know, treat thy neighbor as you would treat thyself, proceed in a loving manner. You know, basically don't be an asshole.
It's true.
Really
That's the going to a Catholic school. I think that's the one thing I do take is that, okay, it has, I can't say it's installed the right morals in me, because I think my parents, my mum, and my family would have done that anyway. But perhaps for those that don't have a solid grounding around them, maybe it is good to just have those morals. I don't want to say drummed into them either, because it sounds like the wrong thing to say, but it kind of is. It does. At times it would feel like that. It's kind of being drummed into you, which again just doesn't necessarily fit with me anymore as an individual. So yeah, I'm still battling with, obviously being in Malta. It's very very Catholic, which again I have no problem with whatsoever for other people. It just, for me, I just find it hard to adhere to a church that is extremely rich, yet there's so much poverty in the world. Now, this is not just on you know, it's not just the church that is a rich religion, but you know, yeah, it's just a personal thing for me at the moment. But again, I have no judgment on other people.
Oh my God. And this is, you know, it gets such a bad rap. And like I said, I've done my fair bit of judging, and I think a lot of us do. And then a lot of people judge other religions from the angle or the lens of their own religion. And, you know, you see all this infighting. I'm right, you're wrong. I have to prove I'm right. And actually we can all be right. But what underpins it is faith. Faith is so incredibly crucial to this whole consciousness thing that I'm talking about. Because what you do then is make your own religion. You can totally cherry pick or not, just use the whole language of science. I mean, that's basically the new mystical language anyway. And that's why I incorporated it so much in how I engage with clients, but also in the film and in my life, because it helps me believe. And there's new outrageous science I keep sort of referencing that's proving all of this stuff. Make science your religion, but don't let anything limit you from continuing to break the glass ceiling. You know, how well do you want it to be? I mean, we tend to imprison ourselves in our own belief structures and paradigms, and sometimes we can outgrow religions, just like we can outgrow relationships, just like we can outgrow jobs and places, etc. And I think that's a really key point, is to know that you're allowed to outgrow something that used to serve you. And once again, it comes back to the feeling. What feeling do you get when you go to church? What feeling do you get when you're told you have to go to church or you have to do it this way? And if it's not a positive feeling that warms your heart and lifts you up, listen to that and go, maybe I want to try it a little differently. Maybe I can worship in a different way that is working for me, because I am a huge believer in devotional living. It saves my life on a daily basis. I have my own way of doing that. It would not work for you, because Jamie, I'm Kristin, you know?
Yeah, okay, I understand. So,
so I mean, and I think also there's a really important distinction to make, that prayer and meditation isn't really something that we just do every once in a while and then we go out and like we can do whatever we want, and you know, and we sort of excuse our bad behavior. And a lot of people use religion to do that. It's actually, feeling is prayer, and you're doing it all the time. I would say meditation is kind of channeling your highest self, and we're in constant contact with your highest self, this future version of us who's lived through all these hardships, who loves us unconditionally and always wants the best for us. And that's been one of the greatest gifts of my journey to reveal my own sentience, is to really develop that connection. You can call it guides, you can call it whatever you want, the Polaris light, you can call it a milkshake, I don't care, but we all have it, and it's exquisitely designed for us, and it's accessible through our feelings, and that is available to everybody, and we can be using it right now.
Wow, this has been absolutely amazing. I've got so many more questions. I'm just thinking, okay, just wait for next time, Jamie.
Are we up on time? Can I say one thing about mass meditation, because it's so important?
Yes, yeah, please do. Yeah,
so
of course.
I've been talking about the amplification. I've been talking about the amplification effect of groups and the amplification effect of heart-brain harmony. When you get into that coherent state and you're in alignment, right, and you're manifesting more quickly, that's your incentive, because it happens. Trust me, it's real. But that can also be really amplified in groups and non-local mass meditations. So I've been working with and filming. I've had the privilege to follow MOM. It's a organization based here in the UK that is setting up groups of mass mindfulness, basically mass meditation groups, periodically throughout the year.
What's it
that
called?
You can join all over the world, anywhere that you are. You can make your own MOM. You can have your own MOM with yourself, but you join in at that time, and you send out that coherence of peace, or that intention of peace or coherence, or whatever it is that you want to beam out to the world. And usually there's a MOM focus. Sometimes it's Mental Health Week, and they'll get involved in that, depending on what's going on. And what the sort of MOM intent is. And that amplifies all of that energy, and we can really start to see a massive impact in our world. And I'm a huge believer in mass meditation. I think we should all be getting out there and getting involved in our own ways. It can be a MOM, it can be a Power of 8 group. Lynn McTaggart does those. It can, it can be, I think Disclosure Fest does some. Get involved, get on Twitter, start your own.
There was
because
actually
this is how we change
a study,
the world.
wasn't there? There was a study. There was a mass meditation that was done. Was it 7,000 people? Something? I don't know the number exactly. And it had an incredible effect on the level of terrorism around the world, right? Is that correct?
It's true. It was the Transcendental Meditation Institute, I think, and that's the Maharishi effect, right? That 1% can affect the whole entire world, the other 8 billion of us, Wow, 1% of us can affect everyone else. That's massive. That's huge. We've not had this awareness before. And that allows us to know that it's true. And then we start to see how we can really catalyze great change in a short amount of time. And you hear people talk about like the event, like, is there going to be a mass event? I think the event is here. I think anything can happen. I think we can co-create a glorious event. I don't think that we're facing destruction at all. I think we're in the middle of a massive shift, and it's all working in our favor. So what I see is us cleaning up trauma, using the power of mass meditation to amplify and raise the vibration of our collective consciousness. And I then see us able to basically reach that tipping point. And research is showing it's not so much how much of us anymore, it's actually the quality of coherence that a small amount of us can actually hold. That can literally shift everything. And that is huge. And I'm also involved with HeartMath Institute. They're based in California. They again, they're in all countries now, including the UK. And HeartMath is brilliant because they have been just churning out, peer-reviewed science and study, one after the other. They've got over 300, probably the count is now closer to 400 studies on this type of thing. But they have magnetometers all over the world, and this is in the film, where they're measuring the resonant frequencies of Earth, right? And they're starting to prove that we have an effect on the resonant frequencies of Earth, and that when we get together in global mass meditations, those frequencies become more coherent. And it's really interesting that the heart-brain frequencies is 0.1 hertz, when the heart and the brain is coherent. And that's that first undulating wave of the Earth's electromagnetic fields. So that's healing, when we can harmonize with that. It's all vibrational. And the science is amazing. And it's really up to each and every one of us to start embracing it and incorporating it in our own lives. And you can call that religion, or you can call that spirituality, or you can just call that living. And like you said, doing life, because this is supposed to be fun. This is not the long, hard road. Yeah. Let's take the lift. We don't have to climb the mountain, and get there together.
And typically, if you're enjoying things, you are giving off a bit of energy anyway. So I think that's important to be like, I think even when I've been doing some yoga at home, obviously, because I can't do it anywhere else, and having to use a channel on YouTube, and the instructor will put you in some really difficult poses, but then she'll say, and smile, now smile, and it will feel better. And it does, because you're not straining as much, and then you kind of like, you immediately feel like this energy, this smiling energy. It's an odd concept. I've even done it when I was going for a run, and there's this brutal hill, and the first time I did it, I barely made it up there. But then the second time, after hearing this, I thought, okay, I'm going to try smiling up this hill. I probably looked like an idiot to anyone I was running past. I was smiling as I was running up this brutal hill, and I got through it and then carried on running and didn't stop this time, and just felt almost lighter. I almost felt like I was running on my toes as I was doing it. So I think, it goes to your point, is that, we should be enjoying everything we're doing, even the things that are hard.
Joy is the way through. I mean, literally follow that compass point, right? If you think of sentience as a compass, like joy is the one that you want to follow and just go with, and smile your way through it, because that sends all those chemicals going, right, all across your body, the good chemicals like dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, the really wonderful feeling chemicals that we seek all the time in substances, and perhaps like not so nice behaviors that we can get inside all the time. I think that is so key. We sometimes cut ourselves off from that true connection. You also, for some reason, your comment about porn came back into my head just now. Because that is another way that we're dividing ourselves against ourselves, and it's just blocking us from having that true intimacy and that true connection, right? Sex is a beautiful, incredible, connecting act, and orgasm is like the highest form of energetic expression. That can all be used in our favor. I don't know if you've heard of onking. Look it up.
Onking.
But this is all part of tantra.
Oh, like an ankh. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, like the Egyptian ankh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You can use your orgasmic energy to come back to you, and some people say, and we're looking back at the indigenous cultures and starting to see maybe they did live a lot longer, and maybe it's because they were doing these practices and they understood how we needed to be resonant with the earth. They understood the heart-brain harmony. They were aligned with the cosmos, and in that way, I think, once again, it's been here all along. I think the awakening is a lot more of a remembrance of who we really are, as opposed to sort of going somewhere we've never been before. It's peeling back the layers. And that's why I love the word deconstruction, because it says it like nothing else does. It's just, we've built up all these barriers, and it's such an accurate word, because it's about removing the barriers. You're deconstructing it, and then you're redefining it, which is another, I think, aspect of deconstruction, so that you can learn the constructive elements of building a life beyond your wildest dreams. That's what it's all about. Follow your own joy, follow your own passion. That's your highest self giving you those threads. And I would also say, look out for the messages. Your path is littered with messages. Every moment of every day, from your highest self, from the universe trying to help you. It's not against you, it's for you. It's been that way all along. So once you start sort of shifting your perspective, opening your eyes and opening your heart, you can just tap your heart and just close your eyes and feel it. to start to access that heart coherence. It's simple. It's a way more simple than we think. We overcomplicate things.
So it must have been an incredible, well, almost 2 years in build up to making these films.
Yeah. I kind of, honestly, Jamie, I feel like I'm kind of going, ugh, on this pilot, because they've meant so much to me.
Yeah.
I've poured my heart out to these films more than I've done anything in my entire life. They've even felt more important than my children. And I don't know if that might sound really weird. It's just my honest truth. I'm going to be vulnerable here and say, it has been this crazy drive to get this out, almost more than an obsession. It's come in my relationship a lot. My partner Chris East is working on the film with me and has made the film possible because he is such a genius at technology and wonderful behind the camera and has supported me all the way. But we've had major ding-dongs because it's brought all this stuff up. You know how they say, like, to master something, teach it? Mm-hmm. I would say doing a documentary on something is like even a step beyond that. Because I've been teaching this stuff for years now. Yeah. And I love that. That's my comfort zone, my one-on-ones with people. I feel like I'm in one with you right now because I lock into your energy and I feel it through. I used to think, why am I not psychic? Because I'm not getting all these, like, I don't hear anything or I don't see things. I'm a feeler. I'm clairsentient. That's my gift. And everyone has their own way of translating this universal energy, the field, which is always giving us information. So this year and a half, going on 2 years now, has been massively triggering. But it's coming together now, Jamie, and like literally just in the past couple days. And I'm like so relieved. I can't even tell you. I feel like I've birthed something massive. Yeah. And like, if the baby's just come out and it's like, oh, and it's bloody and I'm like sweating and everything's gone to hell, but actually this beautiful thing's come out in the process. It is what I wanted it to be. And I've had a battle in like how to get it out there because I don't want it to get buried, but I believe really strongly in energy philanthropy. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is giving from the heart without condition. Okay. So the way that I do my private practice is I only do donations and I help anybody who comes to me, I will help them. But I don't ask for a fee or anything like that. No one pays. So I want to be the change that I want to see in the world, and I want to see us transcend this fake fiat financial system. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the position to where I can just about make that work most of the time, and so I want to do the same thing with how I do this film. So I'm not going to do the conventional distribution route. Okay. Chris and I have decided we're going to put it out on YouTube. I don't want to waste time. It's needed. It's needed now. It's carrying such a valuable message of hope and inspiration. And it also it provides so much clarity on a lot of these concepts that people don't understand or maybe misinterpret and then implement in their lives in ways that aren't beneficial because they don't really know what they're doing fully. So I hope that it can get out there soon. So we're going to just put it out there on YouTube. So we're relying on everybody who hears about this and who believes in the message of sentient intelligence and heart IQ and growing this all into like these mass meditation events that we can all get involved in our own ways, in our own communities. Please share it, help it go viral, help us spread the message of hope. It's what it's all about at the end of the day. And I think if you start to incorporate some of that philosophy into your life, you'll see it come back to you tenfold, because whatever we put out, we get back. And that's happening all the time. And so I really, really appreciate the opportunity to sit here with you and talk about it.
This is just like how we would normally catch up over dinner. Normally just,
I know.
Well, our partners would be there just trying to distract us from talking. So this has been great to have your undivided attention for so long as well. So I really appreciate it. And it's just there's such an information overload as well. Like going, wow, I'm gonna walk out of this and be like, I forgot about that question. I should have asked that. So there's going to be so many things that are going to come up after, which I'll probably have to just message you about. But even then, once I see the movies and the films, and there's going to be so much more. So are you going to, you mentioned obviously you just want to get the information out there. Will you set up a Patreon page or something where people can donate, or just so then you can essentially go and do more of this, because it's clearly needed. If I'm totally honest, I'm not just saying this because you're my friend. I've not spoken to anyone that is talking like this. I mean, I've seen a few things on YouTube or Guy TV and things, but not to the level of passion and the level of it's almost the balance. You've got a really nice balance of, you can back it up with some of the science as well as this kind of feeling sentient side of things. So it's unreal. It's really I can't even fathom the words really to explain like what this is kind of making me feel at the moment, other than excited
Jamie.
and wanting to make sure that we pump this out as far as we can, and make sure that just the regular person is kind of picking things up. And I think that's where we align really.
Yes.
We're just trying to we don't do things for profit. It's more just this needs to happen.
Absolutely. We're joining in our co-creative potential right now to further amplify this message. And, you're seeing these connections happening more and more. I'm certainly experiencing them. And, like when you started this, I was like, yes, go Jamie. I'm your biggest fan, because we all have our own purpose. And that's so important to own and acknowledge. Each and every one of us has a unique mission, a reason why we're here, and that evolves, of course, and we become more and more aware of it and how we're supposed to do it. And that's again how we navigate our way through life. But what you said about the science is I needed the science to help me believe, and so many of us do. And science is kind of beating its head against the ceiling as well, because that's dependent on the consciousness of the scientists.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest,
it's all about the observer.
Exactly. And you can even look back, if you look at obviously quantum physics, some of the theories that Einstein has come up with are now being questioned. So it's kind of like, say, it's the consciousness and understanding of the scientists. If that evolves or continues to improve, then surely that's going to have a knock-on effect to everything else. Because I just see science as you have the people that will believe in this and just pick up on this energy, but then you have the regular individual like or sometimes they say the ones with a high IQ, they don't naturally channel into this, and they always want science or literature to back it up. So I think that's where that really, really helps, because then once you start swaying those individuals or groups of people, then it's just an avalanche after that.
It really is. And I buy into the concept of like attraction, not promotion. We don't need to go like Bible bashing. All this stuff on people who don't want to hear it. Let them, we have free will and we've got to respect that. But the more you live it in your life, the more that emotional contagion will start to totally spread out like an infection, but in a good way, And it is all about giving from the heart without condition. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing with your whole initiative and Few, and I think it's awesome. I'm also giving from the heart without condition with how I'm deciding to live my life, to, roll out this film. And I think in that way, we are transcending all of these old limitations, all of these old societal beliefs, right? And we're able to then really ramp it up, because we've got to really up our game if we're going to do this here. And the time is now, So I don't want to be like some kind of, alarmist or anything, but come on, people. We're harming the planet. We don't have to suffer anymore. Let's do it. Let's do it now. Because I do believe we've already made ourselves to ascension. I do believe we're dreaming our way, how we got there, and we can make that difficult, and we can learn through pain and crisis. right? And we can reach that kind of, I kind of liken it in the film to a self-induced rock bottom collectively. Bruce Lipton talks about humanity having autoimmune disease, self-destruction.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere.
Yes.
The body attacking itself,
Yeah.
humanity is attacking itself, right? So I'm naming it so we can change it, because we can't change what we don't own.
Yeah.
And then we can go into that new way of being. When you hear people talk about 5D, that's what it's about, right? And there's a lot to change. So you asked about donations. I wanted to just say, only if people want to give from the heart without condition. If you want to, you can go to the website, www.deconstructingsentience.com. All of the donations that we get are going to go to promoting this message, this film and the follow-on film, the sequel film, which hopefully will come. This one's we're going to release fall 2020.
Okay.
And the second film, Simplifying Ascension, will come out probably by Christmas, if not early next year. And then we're just going to carry on doing, the real investigative work, because the mainstream media is failing miserably. And as a former part of it, I can say that.
Oh, I see. Okay, investigating that side. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Why aren't people investigating our feelings, which affect us more than anything? For one, that's why this was my first subject of choice. But I have others. We have pressing issues that are anti-sentient, right? AI, 5G, vaccines. I know we don't want to go in there because we'll get banned and stuff if we do, but I'm just saying there's a lot of things that are threatening to our sentience. And we have a gift as co-creators, and we need to start stepping up and using it to save our world.
There are the good things now I've seen in the press, actually. It's very minute, but there are some studies that are now being released into the press, at least, around things like psilocybin in mushrooms. Obviously, that's now being linked to getting people off antidepressants because it makes you feel more. Well, obviously, antidepressants, it just stops you feeling, just like I say, chops the ends off. I've even had a friend that used MDMA. Obviously, I'm not saying everyone should jump on the drugs, by the way, but it's just kind of things that we've been looking at as well, that there are natural remedies or drugs out there that also allow you to overcome this trauma or depressions that can just get you over the bump, so then you can then start facing it more effectively. So there are kind of studies that are now being released, but it's not enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think the whole field of psychedelics is super interesting. It's providing so many different facets and ways that people can go on these vision quests and different internal journeys, because they're ways of expanding the consciousness, right? And so I'm definitely more pro consciousness expanding drugs than I am obviously consciousness limiting drugs such as alcohol, for one, that's obviously like completely normalized and actually pushed in our society all the time. But I'll get off my soapbox on that one for now.
Hey, I'm going to have a beer after this. So
ayahuasca, it's huge now, and it really appeals to especially that younger demographic. Oh my God, look at me, I'm saying younger demographic.
You still look 21, don't worry.
I do my best, Jamie. No, I mean, I think it's really important that is resonating with so many people, and it's actually really helping. I would also make the point, to counterbalance all of that there's a ritual and a ceremonial aspect to it that can sometimes be disregarded as it gets more mass marketed and commercialized. And we need to really pay homage and respect to that, because that's where the solution really is making it sustainable. So many people think it's a quick fix, and a lot of people go out there and get stuck, and then they don't know how to find their way back. So you have to do it wisely, and you have to feel it through. What's resonating with you? Does it feel right to go? Is it a proper shaman who's conducting the ceremony? And what's the aftercare? And really, this is like a really something to keep in your back pocket for any decision you make. Is this a love-based decision, or is this a fear-based decision? Am I moving towards love or am I moving towards fear?
Interesting.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I've got to make the point as well, on that note, we have all these chemicals in our body. We don't need anything external to activate them. DMT is right here.
Yeah, that's true.
Your third eye, your pineal gland, and it's activated through levels of consciousness. So that's why the feelings are the gateway, once again. And we like to disregard them because we want the quick fix, the more glamorous approach, the easier, softer way. And actually, I'm here as an advocate of sentience. And I'm going to bang on about it for the rest of my life in hopes that it catches on a bit and people start really understanding what I mean. And it doesn't mean that ayahuasca and psychedelics and microdosing and psilocybin, DMT and all that stuff is bad. Not at all. It's there again for us. But we need to find more emotionally intelligent ways of using all of these tools. And I think that's where developing the spirituality comes in, right? Because it's really about knowing what resonates with us and using that to be in the right place for our life at this time, right? Because that's what it's really about, I think, is about using all of these tools and actually your vibrational output, which is reflected back to you all the time, and all those messages that are littering your path to enhance your life and your sentient experience in this body right now.
And this has been even better than I thought it would be, Kristin. So it's been amazing. Really
gorgeous. Like, super motivated soul. I'm so inspired by like the future for you and for me, because there's a lot more of this to come as more of us come together and co-create. And I hope that this inspires more people to go, do you know what? I can dust off my camera if that's your thing, or I can start singing if that's your thing, or maybe I can pick up that paintbrush, or maybe I can just go talk to the neighbor, but do it from the heart and be a little bit more vulnerable in that process. All of these things are ways that we raise our vibration, right? And all of these things are available, and we all have our own unique way of doing that. And that individuality is what we came here to do and to express. And we were meant to make our own impact in the field and source and all that is in that way. It needs us to complete it. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. So we're absolutely magnificent and powerful beings, but we forgot. And it's beyond time to remember.
I agree. And just to then wrap up, so you mentioned obviously for people to keep something in their back pocket, a decision.
Okay.
So what would they? So what's the takeaway? Decision that if they're unsure on something. What should they keep in their back pocket?
Sentience is a compass.
Yeah. Sentience
is this way in which you use your consciousness and your emotional body and your vibrational input / output, right? And in the field, and you become aware of all of it, and you look at the vibrational ladder, and this way is love, and this way is fear, and you use your sentience as an intelligent GPS designed for you with precision accuracy to move towards love and away from fear all the time. And that's the deciding factor. Is this a love-based decision or is this a fear-based decision? Am I moving towards love or am I moving towards fear, right? Am I trying to avoid that because actually I don't want to do it and that's fear? Or actually is this expansive but I'm afraid because that's part of my excitement, because sometimes fear can be a part of your excitement, in which case I need to motivate and use love to get through the fear and integrate the fear in order to then reach that higher level of consciousness, get out there and do that project. I mean, I can't believe that I've managed to pull this off to the degree that I have, because I've had so many moments where I didn't think it was going to happen. And I had so many moments where I didn't believe in myself. But I used that power of the heart and that power of like, all right, I'm going to move to love and feel through the fear, right? Because I know some of this is paradoxical. So I'm going to do that. And I've found my way at this higher level by just being able to stay with myself through that process.
And if people want to, so the website again is?
Yeah, deconstructingsentience.com.
Okay, and if they...
we're on YouTube as well. There's a teaser on the YouTube. We'll put an official trailer up soon, but there's at least something to give you a little taster for what's to come. And that's YouTube/Deconstructing Sentience.
Yeah, I'll put the links in the description. That's good. And if people want to reach out to you specifically, are you happy for them to do that, or how are they able to do that?
Fine. You can find me bespokecounseling.net or thespiritualclinic.net.
Okay.
So those are my two kind of private practice platforms, if you will. Obviously, my conscious focus has been a lot on the film, but I do still see clients because the one-on-one work is like the engine that fuels my soul. I really believe that to keep it, we have to give it away. And what I mean is, I feel that my life was saved that day that I talked about when I ended up in the hospital, beginning of the interview. And when I heard that voice, I really did go, I choose life that day. And when I did that, I meant it. And I really have ever since worked really hard at myself. And that's been a lot of training, yoga and training to be a counselor was a lot of that, but also in treating my addiction. And I think the more that each and every one of us can do that, the more we're enhancing the entire world, right? You can find me there, and I hope that you understand that once you do get this gift, that if you make it some of your purpose to instill it in somebody else, then you're doing your job. And that's actually enough. We don't have to do any more than that. So whoever's in front of you at that moment, or whatever's in front of you in that moment, can you add to it rather than take from it? I think that's a really valuable takeaway that we can all put in our back pocket.
Kristin, I think I won't be alone in thinking you are evidence that angels do exist.
Oh.
Known in aesthetically, but obviously just the energy you give off. I just feel for the last couple of hours I've just had an injection of some kind of energy I can't even explain. I've just been plugged. I feel like I've been watching a show rather than I had to kind of remind myself, saying, okay, Jamie, you're meant to be asking questions. But this has been unbelievable, and I know I'll see you hopefully very soon. Please do let me know exactly when you have the exact date of the premiere. I'll share on everything, and I'm sure lots of people, not just in Malta but around the world, be interested in also knowing, so we can all watch along with you if it will be a premiere. So let's keep talking. I definitely need more of this anyway, just for myself, and then hopefully we can catch up later in the year before you release your second film, because I'm going to have again a multitude of questions that come out of watching the first film, no doubt. So
good, and I addressed a lot of those in the second film because I tried to sort of move it up incrementally. But I just want to say I'm so grateful, Jamie, so grateful for this opportunity. I love talking to you tonight. It's been really fun, and also I have a devilish side too. It still exists, but I face it today. But yeah, no, we've really connected. I feel that it's been such a high vibrational exchange. Everything is an energetic exchange. I felt that a lot in the interviews that I did, and I hope that people will watch the films plural when the second one comes out too, and really pick up on that, because I see it as a transmission or a download, if you will. You can get an upgrade from really, picking up on just the energy that's coming out from all of these amazing people that I have been able to speak to. So yeah, so that's been the greatest blessing, and I'm super grateful to all of them too. So you can get on the website and see who's involved, and
we'll see
have a
you
watch,
soon,
have a
no
listen, and give it a chance. It might just change your life.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
the idea.
Thank you so much, and obviously stay safe and keep doing what you're doing. And just one point as well I'm going to mention, and only one point because I know we'll carry on talking for another 2 hours otherwise. Is this because only something I've been thinking about recently about having this. I've always thought, okay, I try and lead a good life, but I'm consciously aware of having, let's say, a darker side, and I end up. I can see it in others, and that's why I end up building better relationships with people that are similar, that have this kind of darker side. But then I was just thinking, as you said that, the devil in me, but I think it's a point you made earlier is about having this balance. Is the whole yin and yang, is that you can't be all good. There's a balance. Everyone has good and bad, and I think if you don't have the bad, then you can't have the good. So I think it's important really to kind of identify the dark. Let's say the darkness. That's terrible, but the darker side of you, and be like, okay, that's part of who I am, and that's okay.
Integrating the shadow is key. That's exactly what you just said. It's imperative. We have to make the darkness part of us, and we all have it. Guess what? Yin yang. So glad you mentioned that. We are all of that. We are all of the atrocities and the kind of horrors that I mentioned. And we're the greatest expressions of humanity, like the bliss and the awe and the all those peak human experiences that we just stand in wonder of a majestic sunset or a brilliant act of human kindness, We're the full spectrum, and we're here to be the full spectrum, embrace the full spectrum. But once we shed light on some of that, the baseline of the suffering can raise, So yeah, I'm really glad that you said that like that. You're really catching on, and oh my God, you can see my cat in the background. I love it.
Just getting in on the act.
Yeah, and I am a talker. My God, so I'm going to try to shut up.
Trying
to bring it to a close, and I really, really appreciate that. So yeah,
it just means we have so much more to talk about, which is great.
There's so much to it, and this is what was hard to do with the film, is cut it down, because we honestly assembled so much valuable information. I didn't want any of it to go to waste. So that's the reason for the 2 films. So there you go. Stay tuned. It will come out soon. And I just really appreciate everyone's support.
And hopefully the next time I'll see you will be in this beautiful studio, because again, I'm quite lonely in here. So it'd be good to pick up on your frequencies a bit closer, if you're a bit closer anyway.
Yeah, person to person contact is always better.
Brilliant. Have a lovely evening, and it's been amazing to see your lovely face, and say hi to Chris and the girls, and let's say hopefully I'll see you in Malta again soon.
Awesome. Sounds good, Jamie. Namaste. Sending you so much love. Thank you.
Take care. See you later.
Bye.